Thank you very much to Ambassador Kessler of the Swiss Embassy, the ICMP, commissioners, the colleagues, the distinguished panelists, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. I'm sadly too often on panels and on discussions that are actually very, very serious and tragic. And tonight is very much that kind of situation, the issue that we're talking about. The ambassador mentioned in his opening remarks that we've been trying to track the number of missing migrants since 2014. He referred to about 27,000 people during that period that are unaccounted for. Well, during that same period, nearly half are from the Mediterranean region. And this is an ongoing and continuing problem. And there are two things that are really difficult about this job. The first is knowing that I have colleagues at the landing ports in virtually all of the southern Mediterranean countries that are quite regularly seeing body bags coming off the boats. And the second, which I think may be even harder, are the calls that we get from families, relatives, loved ones, looking for their friends, loved ones, or family members that they suspect attempted the journey and didn't make it, and for whom almost always, unfortunately, we don't have any answers for. So what we're here about tonight is extremely important, and it's not just numbers, it's about families and people. The recent trends in the Mediterranean overall are, in this respect, are not very good. While the numbers overall are down in terms of the people attempting the crossing, we have an increased percentage of people going missing or drowning. And that's because it is a very fluid type of migration. It's a very fluid situation. We have had a very dramatic change in the type of methods that are used by smugglers. And for the last several years, when the numbers have been highest in terms of people unaccounted for, they have been mostly using very small, unseaworthy rubber dinghies, sometimes leaving without enough fuel, sometimes leaving without an engine even, and definitely not designed or intended to ever make the crossing. We also have a very, very fluid situation in terms of the types of people that we see coming across, especially across the central Mediterranean. And here I want to kind of bifurcate this summary between the eastern and the central Mediterranean, because we're talking about two very, very different types of migration and types of movements of people. In the eastern Mediterranean, which, by the way, this year is more dangerous than last year in terms of crossings, we have primarily refugee populations coming out of the Middle East and parts of Central Asia. And it's not very diverse migration in the sense that if you take, certainly in 2015, at its peak, if you took the top 5 nationalities, you could account for probably about 85% of all of those people. The central Mediterranean is very, very different, and it has been different for always. It's been different all along. We have a very, very diverse migration. Every year, somewhere around 60 different nationalities are registered by the Italian authorities, arriving across the sea. It's a geographic area that spans from Senegal to the Comoros Islands to Bangladesh. Literally just about any country within that triangle across North Africa is represented in this migration. And of course, it's transiting through a state that, well, often it seems that perhaps it's hardly a state. A situation in Libya that has over the years, certainly in recent years, deteriorated, and where already there is a lot of suffering at the hands of traffickers, smugglers, other criminal networks. I would say almost systemic abuse of women, but not only. We are seeing very seriously traumatized and abused males as well. And so, of course, these are the unfortunate people that, having to flee, are getting on these types of boats and coming across the Mediterranean. One of the main issues, of course, is the absence of a state-led or EU-led or multilaterally led response to saving lives at sea. And we're seeing this play out all the time. And I think we're seeing it in some regards playing out right now, or these hours and these days. Because in the absence of that kind of response, that comprehensive response to save lives, and then figure out how to address both the underlying problems, but also the humanitarian issues. In the absence of that kind of response, other actors are stepping in, civil society, in some cases commercial vessels have to step in, apart from, of course, the Italian authorities doing a big share of the job. And it's simply not enough. It's simply not enough if we're seriously concerned about not just identifying the missing, but reducing the number of the missing. Because until we're just picking up pieces in the Mediterranean, we're not going to find a solution or an end to this situation. And until we focus on just trying to find remedy for the missing, then obviously, if that's what we're doing, we've got other underlying issues. So these are extremely important issues that I think arise out of really a breaking down of processes much earlier on. And that's really what we're trying to work on. And we're very happy that some attention, some serious attention is being given to this issue. And we're happy that we can contribute. And if you want any more information about our research on this issue, you can simply look for missing migrants on the internet. Thank you very much.